Hi, I'm Christina. You're also going to be meeting my colleague Tim today. I bet you didn't know a bottle cap can run. How does it run if it doesn't have legs? It runs off. Runoff means the movement of water over a surface when that surface can no longer absorb it. It snowed a lot this winter, and now that snow is melting. Usually the earth can absorb that water, but now it's oversaturated. So what happens to the water that can't be absorbed? It runs down following gravity. And just like this snowball, it will pick up debris along the way. This happens in urban settings where that water can't be absorbed, and it could lead to water pollution and flooding.
Pollution can be grouped into two categories: point source pollution and non-point source pollution. Point source pollution is pollution coming from an easily identifiable and known source. This can be smokestacks or manufacturing plants, or from a road drainage pipe or waste treatment center. The exact opposite is called non-point source pollution. Non-point sources are difficult to identify and may come from many places over large land areas. This could include fertilizers on a lawn, gas and oil, heavy metals, or litter like this bottle cap and bottle. Most of non-point source pollution is caused by runoff. While neither source of pollution is good, the one advantage of our point source pollution is that its exact cause is known and can be acted upon, such as identifying it from our waste treatment center or our factory. On the other hand, non-point source pollution is a more difficult kind of pollution to eliminate because the location may be unknown entirely. It can be from city streets, rural homes, or croplands.
So that's how runoff can lead to water pollution. Another significant effect of runoff is flooding.
Runoff can also cause massive amounts of erosion. Erosion is the wearing away of land from forces such as wind, water, or ice. You may have seen little valleys being carved into the soil when it rains a lot, and that water will then move like a small river. This is erosion due directly to runoff. When erosion like this happens, and the sediment is taken away and deposited into whatever the nearest body of water is, this can create big problems for life in the water and on land. In the water, it could be cloudy and choked up with these small sediment particles. Any contaminants present in the sediment can also be carried into these waterways. How can erosion affect people? Erosion can have a huge impact on human settlement, where people are building houses or where these houses and buildings are already built. Soil erosion can affect the agricultural business also. When the runoff pulls away that topsoil, it can rip away crops and the nutrients people need.
Think about all the different kinds of materials present on planet Earth's surface. Some of these materials are able to absorb water, making them permeable, things like salt marsh, soil, sand, things present in this watershed. These are awesome materials because they naturally filter water as it penetrates the Earth's surface. On the other hand, we have impermeable materials. These are materials that cannot absorb water, and generally speaking, they're man-made. Things like roads, asphalt, concrete, and roofs. Whatever pollutants are present on those surfaces generally run off into storm drains when rain occurs. These pollutants enter our storm drains and then find their way to bodies of water like the Long Island Sound. So what can you do? You have many choices you can make to prevent runoff pollution from entering Long Island Sound. Let's take a look at some of these mitigation tactics.
Many Connecticut cities are installing bioswales. A bioswale is a linear ditch planted with native plants that allows for the collection and ideally the filtration of water running off of roads. This one is in the heart of downtown Stamford. They are specifically designed with a cut in the curb and a tub-like shape to capture runoff water. Many bioswales feature a gabion, which is a wire cage filled with rocks. This allows the water in larger rain events to more quickly penetrate the surface and help keep the area from flooding. Alterations of natural flows of water also greatly affect the amount of runoff that the land is capable of dealing with. At Mill River Park in Stamford, the Rippewam River was formerly dammed, which altered the floodplain of the river. The damming caused the river itself to have a much higher water level, and when heavy rain events occurred, it led to flooding. After removal of the dam and restoring the natural flow of the river, as well as replacing the banks with native plants, the river and its floodplain are better able to deal with and absorb the runoff. One option to reduce surface runoff from impermeable surfaces is to replace them with permeable ones. Most of the roads that we're familiar with are impermeable, and when it rains, carry whatever pollutants are present into storm drains, which make their way into bodies of water like the Long Island Sound. Norwalk Community College has replaced one of their large parking lots with a permeable surface. By installing these circular-shaped plates with permeable material inside, the water is able to drain into the earth and be filtered instead of running off the parking lot and being able to enter the Sound. Still does the job that is needed for parking while making the environment cleaner. There are also new permeable asphalt and concrete solutions that allow penetration into the earth instead of running off into a storm drain. The use of these kinds of services may greatly reduce runoff from vehicles.
As you know, runoff causes erosion, but it can also bring pollution to the Long Island Sound.
A major cause of hypoxia, or a lack of oxygen in Long Island Sound, is the addition of too much nitrogen from sources like fertilizer runoff and wastewater entering the Sound. In this image, we can see excess nutrients flowing down the Connecticut River and getting dumped directly into the water. The sources of those excess nutrients and waste were identified, and targets for reducing the amount of nitrogen entering the water were set. The graph shows the portions of the waste that were coming from New York and Connecticut and how they've changed over time. The amount has been decreasing and in recent years has been below the threshold. What has been seen as a result of these changes is a reduction in the amount of water that is affected by a lack of dissolved oxygen, as well as the length of time that those parts of the water are affected. This is directly related to stopping as much nitrogen and waste as possible from entering the Long Island Sound. In the past, heavy hypoxia caused large amounts of dead zones, creating images like this one, where massive schools of surface-dwelling menhaden, a species of fish in the Long Island Sound, had large die-offs. With a little bit of effort, the Long Island Sound looks more like this now. It's important to remember we can all make choices that can have positive effects on runoff. Planting rain gardens, not using or very lightly using natural fertilizers, or even something as simple as washing your car in the grass instead of on the pavement to keep the soap from entering the storm drains. Another potential help to runoff is a trash skimmer. A trash skimmer is essentially a floating dumpster that pumps water through it and can be used to collect debris coming from upstream. It's important to note that a trash skimmer is a method of dealing with runoff after it happens. But the best strategy to dealing with runoff is changing the way that we manage it and the ways that we can keep it from entering bodies of water in the first place.
Runoff is a major problem in our watershed, and we all play a role in the impact that runoff has on the Long Island Sound. By making simple lifestyle changes, we can have a positive impact on runoff instead of a negative one.